Hey everyone, so I am going to walk you through how to use play therapy when you are working with a client with complex trauma. As mentioned in the slides, this can be used with adolescents and or adults. Some adults may not be as open to it, so you'll kind of approach it in a different way, but it certainly can be used with all ages, which is not exactly what most people would think right away. So there are three main components or phases to play therapy. The first is creating safety and security. The second is integration of traumatic events or processing the events, that kind of thing. And the third is reintegration and termination, also called reconciliation. So I'm going to walk you through those three steps and what those might look like. So the first is safety and security. So through that, basically, like any therapy, you're going to create a safe space and really focus on that therapeutic relationship, make sure the client is comfortable. You're really kind of building up the relationship in order for them to feel safe so that they can eventually process the trauma. Again, like in all therapies, this one, you kind of let the client take control and let them lead the way and take their initiative and go at their own speed. So things that you can do in this phase. So one way, especially with adults, is to have, if you're in your office and you have your play material and art material and things like that accessible, have them out and have them open and invite them to explore them. So you might have materials on a bookshelf, but just say, oh yeah, I have this stuff. If you see anything, feel free to. Or have a sand tray on the table in front of them if you have a coffee table or something like that. Maybe have Play-Doh out and open so they are invited to access it easily. Have crayons or markers, mandalas, coloring pages. Just have it kind of like just very accessible for them so they don't feel threatened to explore it, and it's a very welcoming environment where they can do that. And then once they do kind of start to explore and kind of do things, let's say somebody's drawing a picture or painting a painting, and you can kind of give feedback and say, oh, I see that you're like working really hard on that and you're really careful about the colors you're choosing, or you just want to kind of give them that positive feedback, and that's a way to kind of encourage them and welcome them, provide insight, kind of build on that therapeutic relationship a little bit, and you can also help increase their self-worth in that way too. One thing that we're really working on in this stage is emotional regulation and helping them to understand their feelings. So a lot of times they are so dissociated from their feelings that they can't even name them. They don't even know how to appropriately label them and things like that. So you can use like toy figurines of people or animals, or blocks, even for that matter, if you wanted to be abstract, or feeling cards to help them identify maybe like the way a face would look if somebody's angry or sad or happy or anxious or joyous and things like that. And you can create games out of those kinds of things too. What else? Oh, and you can use games like board games to create that relationship. You're kind of creating that cooperative relationship, going back and forth, and you're kind of having fun. And a lot of times these clients may not have had that kind of relationship with anybody in their life. So creating a fun, welcoming environment where they can interact with somebody in a healthy manner. Oh, and another idea is to create fun breathing exercises. So in one of the articles it spoke about a client that was like, do not make me breathe. Do not make me do a breathing exercise. So she was respectful of, or the therapist was respectful of that, but later on she was able to get the client to do some breathing exercises through like fun games with straws and blowing cotton balls and things like that. And the client actually appreciated that she approached it from a different angle and was able to do it in a different way. Another couple ideas is you can use like a distraction box. So if therapy or things are just getting too hard, you have a box of things that they can go to. It can be like self-soothing Play-Doh, sand tray, things like that. A lot of tactile kind of things might help with that. And something that maybe they can take and have at home too, and so that it's a tool that they can go back to. when their feelings are becoming too much for them. So once that therapeutic relationship is really established and the client is safe and secure and they're showing signs that they're ready to move on to processing the trauma, then you can do that. And so using play therapy, you can help them develop a narrative. So one way would be to begin at their earliest memory and help them either like draw a picture, write a story, draw comic strips, use figurines to help them tell their story. So through this process, what you're trying to do is to help them integrate the trauma and how they're reacting to it into their lives. So sometimes they haven't been able to process how they're feeling with that trauma and effectively regulate their emotions that they have as a result of those triggers. So this is kind of where you could bring in cognitive behavioral therapy and kind of help them to alleviate their symptoms and their feelings that they're having as a result of the trauma triggers. So let's see, what else can we do during this phase? Also, there's an interesting writing therapy called cognitive behavioral writing therapy, which is kind of just like what it is, but writing out your narrative and processing the trauma that way. And as mentioned before, a lot of times clients who have experienced complex trauma have a hard time expressing themselves or even having the tools or emotions or words to express those feelings. So think outside of the box with this. Sand trays, using colors to represent different feelings or different emotions as they're drawing can be helpful. And once again, you can use those feeling cards and figurines to help them identify how they're feeling as you're working through the trauma. Other useful things can be drawing before and after pictures. So before picture of the trauma and after picture of the trauma, or before the processing, after the processing. Really, with play therapy, you can just kind of have fun with it and kind of let them lead and be creative. It can be really helpful for the client to process it in different ways and integrate their trauma that way. So then the final phase is reintegration and termination. So basically the play therapy that the client has learned and the tools that they have learned through the play therapy will help them to reintegrate into their lives. So they're going to reintegrate the experiences that they've had, but they're going to be able to do it in a healthy way now because they've been able to process that trauma through the play therapy. Let's see. At this point, you can focus on the resilience and their wellness and their strengths and try out the new skills in that safe relationship with the therapist. So they can role play board games again. Board games are used to create like positive, healthy relationships where they're having social interactions, having fun, kind of having to be cooperative and take turns, go back and forth, and that kind of thing. And then anxiety can be reduced also through like art, through movement, through exercise, songwriting, listening to music. So the skills that they've learned, they can start putting to use at this point so that they can use them when they're out in their life and they're like, okay, I need to step back and draw a picture or go color and check myself out. And then at this point, it's also a really good opportunity to integrate family members, so non-offending family members, so it's a safe thing, and into the play therapy. So once again, board games can be used, creating that fun, joyous atmosphere, having fun with one another. Do family drawings, so everybody takes a turn kind of drawing a portion of the picture. It can be something abstract. It could be like, hey, let's draw a picture of our family on vacation or at the beach or at the park flying a kite. And everybody takes a turn like drawing parts of that picture. Sand trays, interactive. They can both be doing a sand tray. They can be doing the same one or taking turns, that kind of thing. Collages can be a really neat way to use this. Creating a vision board, cutting out pictures from a magazine about how they see themselves or what they want to, how they see their integrating into the family, what their family means to them. and all kinds of things. So like I said, you can really have fun with play therapy. It can be used for all ages, and it's a great way for people to use tools that they're not necessarily used to using to understand their emotions and be able to process the trauma. So I hope you found this useful.